to the Farsi Show, everybody. My name is Mark Farsi. This is the Farsi Show, presented by Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers. We'll pronounce Iran however we damn well please. How do you like damn apples? I was excited. Edge of my sofa. Really enjoying watching the United States men's soccer. Now, look, it's not our sport. It's not our game. Let's get all that stuff out of the way. It's people enjoy the party. I enjoy the party. But whenever I see, almost in anything, whenever I see USA on the screen and another country in another part of that screen, and there's a score next to it, I can watch it. I can watch badminton. And not to brag, I did get an A in badminton in college. But when it comes to watching a U.S. national team play, I am in. Edge of my seat, rooting for. I can have no understanding. Cricket is probably the sport I have the least understanding of what the hell is going on. All right. But I'm watching it. I'm watching soccer yesterday. I enjoy the sport. I enjoy the party. And I get it that goals aren't really the objective. You should be fit. The USA scored 2 goals in the group round, and they're advancing. What? I was explaining it to my brother-in-law on Thanksgiving when we were hanging out the day after watching the U.S. I was saying basically what it comes down to is it's not about the goals really as much as it is about the chance to score a goal. Like every time they put the ball in the corner for a corner kick, I'm like, oh boy, here we go. Nothing. Okay. It's like a tease every single time. And then the great, amazing triumph of a goal, which the United States got at the 37-minute mark of yesterday's game, and it was all they needed to advance in the World Cup. I was ecstatic. I almost passed out in stoppage time. For those that don't watch soccer at all, that's the time where no one has any idea how much time's left in the game. Another reason Americans are out on it. But anyway, the Iranians almost have a goal trickle in to tie things up in stoppage time, which, of course, would have been really bad for the U.S. who needed to win to advance, and that's exactly what they did. Absolutely incredible game. Absolutely incredible game. Enjoyed watching that game yesterday. I'm glad the U.S. won. How about that second youngest team at the World Cup? And here they are out of group play. Fantastic. Love to see it. What I don't love to see is an injury. And today, Derrick Gunn of the Jake and Media YouTube channel, Jake of Sports Take, formerly of NBC Sports Philadelphia, Gunn on One podcast as well. He joins the show to talk about the impact of Charles Gardner-Johnson's injury. Now, according to Jeff McClain, according to the NFL Network, there were some conflicting reports out there originally. This is from Jeff McClain. CJ Gardner-Johnson has a lacerated kidney to go along with a rib injury, likely a fracture. This is according to an NFL source. And he goes on to say the Eagles safety may not go on IR, but will be out for an extended period of time. If IR'd, he'll be out for at least the next 4 games and won't be eligible until the 1st of January when the Eagles take on the New Orleans Saints. Now, here's the other part of it. He goes on to explain that Zach Ertz suffered the same injury, and I remember this, suffered the same injury back in 2019. Zach Ertz was back in 2 weeks. Despite people being like, hey, Zach, you really shouldn't play with this. And he's like, I'll play. And he played. But a little bit more information came out, and Jeff McClain says, some further clarification on Gardner-Johnson's injury, no rib fracture. Even though the initial diagnosis was a rib injury, Zach Ertz had both the fractured rib and the lacerated kidney. CJ Johnson just has the laceration. I think whatever you just have to say, just the laceration. So hopefully he won't be back, or hopefully he won't be out too long. But if Zach Ertz can play or could play, then at least gives you hope for CD Deuce to be back in the not too distant future. I know most people, I think I'm like most people, whenever you see the word indefinitely, which is what the NFL Network put out there, whenever you see the word out indefinitely, you always think, well, we are going to see him for like a month at the earliest. That might not be the case for CD Deuce. Here's the deal with him. Anytime somebody gets injured, you feel bad, especially when it's one of your own guys. You've been following them and their story. He gets traded to the Eagles, if you remember, like a week before the season. And he has to learn his new role because he's a slot corner. He's not a safety. They needed a safety. Now all of a sudden he's a safety. and he leads the NFL in interceptions, playing mostly a position he's never played at the NFL level. What? The 6 picks he's had on the year, getting in the backfield, being able to get at the quarterback as well. Very versatile player, a player that the Eagles obviously needed in that secondary. He has filled that role admirably and beyond. Now it goes to a rookie in Reed Blankenship. Yesterday, your boy, Jonathan Gannon, talking about Reed Blankenship and how prepared he was for his first real NFL action as a starting safety.
Just, I want to say this, Reed had a very good game. He came in there, and that's a tough spot, but our guys, like, they're psychologically prepped for that to happen. So, and what I mean by that is, everyone that has a jersey on game day, the head coach talks about roles, like everyone has a role, but that can change like that. So, those guys that are backups right now, they prepare like they're going to be in and starting. So, I mean, it's a really, a feather in Reed's hat. He's prepared the correct way.
When you hear Jonathan Gannon actually get asked the question about Reed Blankenship and what he's going to be doing for this defense, it's almost like he takes exception to the idea that any of his backups wouldn't be ready to perform at a very high level. And I would think, that's good. That's fine. You can have that attitude as a coach, but at the same time, he just picked off Aaron Rodgers as his first NFL interception. So it's kind of a big deal. And it's not just the typical, oh yeah, everybody's ready to go at any time, because that's not always the case. That's a huge mental hurdle for these guys to get over. Imagine every single week you're preparing, and then you don't play. It could literally be all season and you don't play. You wait for an opportunity. Either somebody gets hurt or somebody isn't playing well, and you either want to send a message and you send in a guy who, like Blankenship, to send a message to your starter. You better get it going or this guy's going to take your job. Like, there's all sorts of things that play into this. But he finally got the opportunity and he picked off Aaron Rodgers. Yes, that's a big deal. And I did point out yesterday when Watson was streaking down the sideline after that crossing pattern reception he had, and Blankenship, could not get there. And a lot of guys couldn't get there. So that's not on Blankenship for the people that want to be realists about this backup coming into play. Yes, he did get burnt on that one play, but a lot of players would get burnt on that one. Marcus Epps, who's got a lot more experience than Reed Blankenship, got burned on that particular play. I look forward to seeing what it's like for him to run with the ones, have those ones around him, get to know how those regular starters play, get to know their tendencies a little bit better, because in practice you're not doing that. You're not out there with the same guys that you're going to be starting with come Sunday at 1 o'clock against the Titans. So I look forward to seeing what Reed Blankenship can bring to the table when it comes to a full week of practice with his number ones around him, and also going out there and hopefully performing against a team that, I mean, let's face it, is going to be run happy more so than anything. If that guy wants to come up and lower a boom, there's only one bigger message than you might be able to send to the NFL that you have come to play. You've sent a big one in picking off Aaron Rodgers. The other one would be laying a boom on Derrick Henry. And you know what? Why not keep going for the stars? And that's what Reed Blankenship has in front of him. Biggest opportunity of his NFL career right here. Biggest opportunity of his life right here, taking on this Tennessee Titans offense and knowing that Derrick Henry is going to be looking to get to that next level where Reed Blankenship will be there. Good luck to you, young man. Good luck to you. A couple other things they got into yesterday was how much they will miss CD Deuce as far as what he has been able to give this defense, what he's been able to do for this defense in the short time he had to prepare to be a part of this defense before the season started. He also talked about Ndamukong Suh and Linval Joseph getting more comfortable in the game plan and the philosophy or scheme, if you will. And he didn't give too much detail, as you would assume, as to how they're going to attack Derrick Henry. Here's the thing that's wild. The Bengals held him to under 40 yards. The Packers held him to 3.1 yards per carry. But I think he still had 87 yards in that game, which is not Derrick Henry, not a Derrick Henry number, but 3.1 yards per carry. They're going to, even if you have success, this is what the Eagles have to be prepared for. You know that time we would talk about Andy Reid in the run game and how a couple of runs wouldn't work in the first half and he'd totally get away from it? Or we've done it. We've said the same thing with Doug Peterson. We've said it in the very early goings of Nick Sirianni's career here in Philadelphia, or very like the first 5 games. And the run won't work. And it's like, oh, it's not working today. We're away from it. When the run doesn't work for the Titans, they keep running. They keep trying to just jam the ball in your face every single play. They don't quit. 28 carries by Derrick Henry. Now, when you have Derrick Henry, you can kind of go, all right, that's going to work. But this is where a guy like Mike Vrabel and his team and his coaching staff just continue to have faith in first off, the pound part of the ground and pound game, which is your defense playing tough defense. And then the second part of that is the ground part, where you're just running the football constantly with a bell cow back like Derrick Henry. There are other teams in the league that if they didn't have success would get away from it. We've seen it here in Philadelphia, as I just pointed out. The Titans don't give a damn. The Titans know that they're going to keep swinging for the fences because eventually they're going to connect and hit a bomb. And that's what you have in Derrick Henry and how they utilize him as a running back. So even though Ndamukong Suh, Linval Joseph, Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargrave, even maybe Jordan Davis, even though these guys will have some success in this game, and even though I'm sure Jonathan Gannon will go ahead and say, all right, yeah, beat me over the top because Derrick Henry is not beating us today. If that's the case, if that's the philosophy they take into this game, then just be ready for that one big run that's going to come. Just be prepared for that. This is, again, why I think bringing in the defensive tackles that you did at the time that you did, this is a game that, yes, obviously was very much circled on their calendar. We'll get into it with Derrick Gunn, all the games they have circled on their calendar when it comes to bulking up their defensive line. But even more so than the Packers, with the way Gannon likes to play with passive corners and aggressive front four, so aggressive, in fact, that you hardly ever blitz. You just worry about beating your one-on-one battles there at the line of scrimmage. This is where I think he's actually going to load up on stopping Derrick Henry and say, all right, yeah, go ahead. Hey, Reed Blankenship, be the deepest man on the field at all times. Marcus Epps, be the deepest man on the field. Don't give up that huge play down the sidelines. Instead, concentrate on stopping the run. This is where those guys will have their success. They're going to make you feel good. Man, you got to make sure that you have that heavy rotation in there. And those guys are fresh. And Ndamukong Suh, hopefully playing more than 17 snaps. Hopefully we're at a part where we can get a point now, 2 weeks into it, where you feel like this will be the third game, 3 games into it, rather, where you're going to be able to keep the conditioning up and you're going to be able to be out there on the football field and more than you ever have as a Philadelphia Eagle. And hopefully that's where you've worked yourself up to over the last now 3 weeks in this defense. So a huge test lies in front of the Eagles, as we all know. And look, they got the horses to do it. It's just a matter of when's that big run going to be broken by Derrick Henry. And hopefully the Eagles can keep them under wraps as far as that goes. One of the other things I talked about yesterday was Jalen Hurts. And the idea of him coming to the sidelines to offer suggestions. It's one thing, and I'm sure the vast majority of quarterbacks and really offensive players do this, where they talk to their position coaches or they talk to their offensive coordinator and they say, hey, this is what they're doing. All right, this is what they're doing. And they'll call it out and they'll say what the other team is doing. But I don't know if it's as common for that same player at the same time to go, this is what they're doing and this is what we should do to beat that. That's the bigger step here. Breaking down what the defense is doing in front of you and not just highlighting it and telling it to your coach and seeing what he says about it, but you actually offering the suggestion or saying what you should do to counter what that defense is doing. That, I think, is the next step that I don't think a lot of other quarterbacks take. Good quarterbacks do it, no doubt about it. And Jalen Hurts is a pretty damn good quarterback. But actually suggesting what should come next and what they should do or adjust in their game plan based on what he is seeing, I think that's a huge step forward for Jalen Hurts in this offense. Jalen Hurts is an NFL quarterback in general. Shane Steichen was asked about that yesterday. Didn't get too specific, but he did talk about the scenarios.
Nick mentioned that he'll come to the sideline and offer up some suggestions. How much more is that happening this year, and what have some of those been?
Yeah, no, it's been great. Anytime, you're playing at a high level like he's doing right now, and he's seeing things really well on the field, all those guys, the receivers, Jalen. I mean, when they see something that we can take advantage of, because they're the ones out there doing it, obviously we want to take those into consideration every time, and then we go from there.
Shocking. Nothing specific from the coach, but he does acknowledge the fact that Jalen will come over, talk to him, talk to Nick, and try to exploit whatever it is the defense has been giving him. I really give him a lot of credit, and I never thought that like Jalen Hurts was some guy that like couldn't read a defense. I just thought he wasn't very good at it. There are certain things like when people made a big deal, and rightfully so to an extent because it was the playoffs, when Todd Bowles is caught on microphone saying this guy can't read a defense, then most people are going to run with that. But the other part of it, if you don't just scratch the surface on hearing that and you dig a little deeper, that's Todd Bowles. Todd Bowles has been a defensive coordinator for a long time in the NFL. Todd Bowles has been around the NFL for a long time. Todd Bowles is not some like rookie defensive coordinator or rookie defensive coach in general saying, oh, this guy can't figure me out. Like Todd Bowles knows a thing or two about disguising blitzes. He knows a thing about when to be aggressive, knows a thing about reading a quarterback's tendencies and exploiting it. And, oh, yeah, it was also his first playoff game ever. I think the biggest, and we've talked about it a lot when it comes to accuracy, leadership seems to have always been there for Jalen Hurts. So I know people want to throw that out there as well. I think he's always been a great leader. I think that along with success as a leader comes credibility. So it's easier for people to buy into what you're selling as a leader when you're being successful in the field as well. So that certainly helped that cause. But leadership is something that I think is just inside people, and that's what he's always had. The biggest thing isn't something that you could really measure with passing yards or a passer rating or even rush yards. The biggest thing might be a product. Those stats might be a product of the biggest thing. And the biggest thing with Jalen Hurts, I think, is his pre-snap reads and his ability to adjust. And when you listen to either your offensive coordinator or your offensive-minded head coach come out and talk about how Jalen Hurts is offering his suggestions as to how to beat the defense based on what the defense has been doing in the early goings of a game, that to me is another big step forward for Jalen Hurts. It's really what's between the ears, and I've said this forever about almost every athlete. For me, it's more about what's between the ears than it is what they can do physically on the football field. Because what they're looking at in any sport, and then they take that information in, and then they react to it in the best way possible, that's what makes a great athlete. That's what makes somebody get into the MVP conversation in any sport. Diagnosing what's in front of them and exploiting its weakness. And if not having it immediately, at least knowing what it will be later in that game so that you can exploit it and can have success and can get that passer rating up and can get the yards up and touchdown passes and rushing yards and whatever it might be. All of the stats are a product of what's going on between the ears. And what I have seen from last year to this year for Jalen Hurts is solidified, not just the guy being in the MVP race and all that stuff, but a guy solidifying himself as the franchise quarterback in the NFL of the Philadelphia Eagles. That, to me, is ultimately what this season has been all about next to winning a Super Bowl. Going into the year, talking about just going into the year, expectations change as the year starts, and the Eagles are obviously 10-1. But from last year to this year, I had said that the Eagles, this is what I know, Jalen Hurts has at least earned another year to be the Eagles starting quarterback. Now this year, here's what I know. Jalen Hurts has earned the right to be the Eagles franchise quarterback. That's what I've learned from this year. If I could say anything about being 10-1, the Eagles are one of the best teams. Yes, they are one of the best teams. But all the conversation in the offseason about Jalen Hurts the guy. He's the guy. End of conversation as far as that goes. And I believe the biggest reason that conversation is over isn't just the fact that they're 10-1 and he's in the MVP race. It's great. It's absolutely. But it's the work he put in the offseason to get better at the physical intangibles. And then at the same time, it was also learning NFL defenses, studying his playbook, being in the same offense for the second straight year. Like, this is beyond our wildest dreams. If you think back to the start of the season, like, put yourself in early September for a second here. And think about all the things that were thrown against the wall with Jalen Hurts. One of the main sticking points was, what is Jalen Hurts going to do in an offense that he is experiencing for the second straight year, that he has not had that luxury since high school when his dad was the coach? How is he going to play? being in an offensive system for the second straight year, something he hasn't done since high school. It's another year in this offense. See how he does. Now he's a little bit more comfortable. Oh, he's comfortable. Exceeded our wildest expectations for what he's been able to accomplish to this point this year. And it's damn good to see it. Damn good to see it. Tell the kids out there, hard work pays off. Hard work pays off. Go figure, huh? Go figure. Before I go any further, I do, and I started the show off by saying we'll pronounce Iran however we damn well please now. Thank you. I was made aware of something yesterday. Somebody hit me up in the old the DMs, right? And they said, hey, when you were doing your riff on how to pronounce Iran, and you Iran, by the way, the reporter called out the U.S. player, right? You said Parmesan cheese. It's Parmesan cheese. Now, this is something I have buried in the back of my mind. I didn't know that the cheese that many sprinkle on their pasta, let's put it that way, on their spaghetti, I didn't know that on like labels at Costco and many other places, they have the SAN at the end of, I can't not say it, Parmesan cheese. I remember my wife and I were already married, and my mother-in-law came over, and my father-in-law, great people. And my mother-in-law kept on saying, do you want Parmesan cheese? Now, my wife and I dated for like 7 years. So it wasn't like I was just meeting this woman and getting to know her. And I like, it would, oh my God, it would destroy my soul when I would hear her say it. I go, Mary, isn't it Parmesan? And she literally went and got the label and showed it to me. And she goes, but it says Parmesan. And I go, oh. So for the person that called me out on it in the DMs there, first off, thank you, rightfully so. But I just thought it was always Parmesan. Like, I won't say Parmigiano, I'll say Parmesan cheese. I didn't know that was an SAN at the end of that until like maybe 2 years ago. And then I see it at Costco now all the time, and I go, oh, that's right. That's how it is. Now, for the record, Locatelli Pecorino Romano is pretty much all I put on my cheese bed. All right, just want to put that out there. But anyway, for the people that didn't hear the show yesterday, what I just said made no sense. But I just wanted to make sure I got that in. All right, because we're a show of culture. We're a show of culture. I don't want to say that things get X-rated in the conversation that I have with Gunner coming up here in a second, but things get interesting. Let me tell you about my man Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers, the other corner of 8th and Walnut, right there on Jewelers Row in Philadelphia. Do what I do, ladies and gentlemen. When it comes to your jewelry purchases, trust one man, the man with the perfect price, Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers. Steven gives all his customers the perfect price. And why is that? I'll tell you why that is. Steven gives the perfect price while other jewelers like to mark things way up just to mark it down a couple of bucks. Make it feel like your negotiating skills are really paying off. Steven doesn't waste your time, ladies and gentlemen, because he wants you to feel welcome. He doesn't want you to feel pressure of having to negotiate, of having to haggle. So he sets everything right there at the perfect price. Steven Singer Jewelers, one place, one price, the perfect price, online at IHateStevenSinger.com. That's IHateStevenSinger.com. Without further ado, let's jump on the Roth and Orthopedics guest line and talk to our good friend and my pregame show partner for the Jacob Media YouTube channel at 6abc.com. Derrick Gunn joins the program. No, I already hit record. So we got that. I think we got some of that laugh in there. Our guest today from Jacob Media, Gunn on One podcast, Mr. Derrick. So right before I hit Gunner, I'll show the people. So
right.
I was painting our dining room today. So as my show knows, I've told them, as the audience, the fine people know, we're getting ready to move and put the house on the market, all that fun stuff. So, I'm a man's man. I like to go out there. I like to go fishing like you, right? And I got to paint my house.
You bougie, man. I thought you bougie people hire somebody to paint for you, dude. You don't be trying. You probably, what you did was about 2 hours ago, you probably took a brush, slapped a little paint on your forearm, trying to make it look like that you actually did some painting, Right. No, you probably broke a nail hole in the brush, man.
This is a dead on. true story.
Yeah.
Now right away you called me bougie, so I got to tell this story. I brought like there's no denying it. Like guilty. As soon as I start this story, people are gonna be like, "Oh yeah, you bougie." So I brought the espresso machine to NBC Sports Philadelphia, then Comcast Sportsnet.
Yes.
I placed it at my desk. You walked by like a second later. You hadn't even put your bag down. You're still holding your blazer.
Right.
And you look at me and you go, "Is that what I think it is?" And I go, "Yeah, espresso machine. You want one?" And he goes, and you go, "You bougie." And then you sat down like 2 desks away from me, which I don't blame you for.
I did, and I don't do espressos because my wife tried to kill me along trying to go with espresso. Back in and I told this story, but back in the 80s, we were out in California because she's from Southern California, so she wanted to go to La Jolla and look around. So we go to La Jolla, find this trendy little shopping area there, and they had a coffee shop in it. So we go in the coffee shop, and she goes, "You have to try an espresso." And I'm like, "What?" And I'm not a big coffee drinker, You got to try an espresso. I don't know what espresso is back then. It's the 80s, man. You got to try a little everything. You know what I'm saying? You got to try a little everything. So I get this espresso in this little cup, and I see people drinking espresso, the pinkies up, and I'm like, no, I ain't doing all that, man. I'm going to hold a cup like a man. Now, my hand's burning, but I'm going to hold it like a man, right? So I drink this espresso. About a half hour later, man, my heart racing, dude. Boop, 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 boop. I'm like, what in the world? And I didn't know at the time that espresso was like compressed caffeine times 2.
Yo,
I'm like, I don't do espressos, dude. That's my near-death experience.
That's why it's a shot. That's why there's more caffeine actually in a cup of coffee,
right?
But you're not like mainlining the caffeine into your system.
Hey.
I will say there's only one place I won't drink espresso from, and that's Au Bon Pain.
What?
Au Bon Pain.
Is that a language or a place?
It's the French language. It's the name of a place called Au Bon Pain, I believe. And I went. My wife likes the sandwiches there, so I went and I got an espresso, and they served it to me in a bowl. I'm not kidding you.
Huh?
And I went, I'll be leaving. I'm not. Nope, not doing this.
Do that,
No.
Do you still carry your espresso machine with you everywhere you go?
When I travel, yes, I have a travel. It's called a hand espresso.
A what? What did you just say? A hand espresso?
I never thought I'd have to say this to Derrick Gunn. Yeah, it's a hand espresso and it's a travel espresso. I'm gonna tell you right now, I feel like you and I can talk about this because we're very secure men. There's no way it doesn't look like a penis. It looks like a penis. I'm just gonna say I'm telling you right now.
I'm uncomfortable right now, man. Because now I'm thinking, is using it for espresso only? What are you using that thing for, man?
Just say yes, espresso. My wife got it for me for the holiday. We'll get the football in a second.
Oh, you one of those couples. Oh. Oh, you one of those couples, huh?
And I go, what is this? And she goes, it's a travel espresso machine. I go, no, it's not. And she goes, what are you talking about? I go, well, I know what you it is. It literally makes espresso, but there's no way after the interview, I'll hold it up for the people and I'll be like, don't tell me right now this doesn't look phallic. That's all I'll say.
You get to a point where you think you know people well, and then there are certain things you wish you did not know about people. Now, this is ingrained in my mind forever. So whenever you and I get together to do the Jacob Media pregame show, I'm going to look at you differently like this.
Look at this.
Now, don't be offended if I say, hey, man, can you move over like about 2 feet that way? I don't want to sit that close to you. I can't. I'm uncomfortable right now. Can you move?
This is good because it's an earlier game. It's a 1:00 game.
Yes.
So I'm going to need a little espresso because we're actually going to be doing the show for the Jacob Media YouTube channel, 6abc.com.
Yes.
We're going to be doing it in the AM for the first time in a little bit. So I might need a little, I'll bring it on set. I'll make it in the middle of one of your many fine points.
No, don't bring that thing on set, man, please, because I'm going to lose it on set. If I see that thing on set, I'm going to lose it. I won't even be able to get through my thought. I'll be crying, laughing so hard. Don't do it to me. Don't do it.
This is how much of a pro you are. For the people that missed it, we were in the middle of talking about a phallic symbol, and you still worked in a plug for the Jacob Media YouTube channel pregame show. You are a pro.
That's what I do. That's what do you expect from me, man?
Oh, God. I swear. I friggin' love you, brother. Here's the deal. So there's some news. today.
Yes, sir.
Tuesday. Yeah, right. Yes, Governor. CD Deuce, Mr. Charles Gardner Johnson, is going to be missing an indefinite amount of time with a lung laceration. What's going on there?
I knew shortly after the game there was a possibility of the cracked rib. I did not know about the was it kidney laceration or
kidney? Excuse me, kidney. Yes, sorry. Yeah.
Man, come on, man. You got to stop this fake news stuff, man.
I'm terrible. I got my head in bad places. What can I say?
Now, the fact that they're not putting him on IR as we do this segment right now is a good thing, which means he could return sooner rather than later. And if you remember, Zach Ertz went through something similar and came back in a short amount of time as well. That's a good thing. But the bad thing is you're still without Avonte Maddox, which he could return next week. So that's good. But you'll have to go into the game against Tennessee now, minus Avonte Maddox and minus, CJ on the back end. And as we saw against the Packers, they're sorely missing Avonte Maddox in passing coverage, especially from the slot. Now, I don't think Tennessee has the caliber of receivers where you got to worry about somebody burning you across the middle all day, but that's still a big deficit there. I'm hoping they don't have to put CJ on IR, because anytime you talk about a possible lung puncture, kidney laceration, and everybody's different. A bigger guy absorbs blows differently, which means it lessens the body blows in a lot of ways. And CJ's, while he's a muscular guy, is a thinner guy, so we don't know to what degree. Because initially I thought when you look at the replay, he hit him with the shoulder and bounced off of him. I'm thinking the way he was twitching on the ground, I thought he separated his shoulder, or maybe a collarbone, And then I got word that it was possibly a rib. And then, of course, we all find out there's a kidney laceration as well. So I'm hoping it's held to a minimum to get him back on the field.
Yeah, you mentioned the bigger guys. Obviously, a totally different injury when talking about Jordan Davis. Any idea when he could be returning to the Eagles? Any chance he returns for this Sunday's game against the Titans?
That remains to be seen. Teams are so secretive nowadays about, who's in, who's out, extent of injuries in a lot of ways. He's eligible to come back this week. The game this past weekend, people said they saw him jogging up a tunnel, so that's a good sign. But, a slow jog is a lot different when you're asked to use your lower half as your leverage and to twist and turn suddenly, and you got big bodies falling all around you. That's a little bit different. So I don't know how cautious they're being at this time with him. Can they use him? Yes, especially as inconsistent as the running defense has been. Yes, they can use him, but you don't want to bring a guy like that back like that too soon, because he could be out again.
Right.
For a much longer time.
Yeah, whenever I see something like I remember Joel Embiid was dancing at a Meek Mill concert when he was out with his and they're like, oh, look, the knee looks good. This is great. All right, well, that's great that it looks good, and that's not a negative. It's certainly not bad, but running up a tunnel is far different than, okay, go out there and stop Derrick Henry.
There you go. Yeah, that's a big difference, man. You're talking about trying to stop a Mack truck. Well, first of all, he's an 18-wheeler, so he could stop a Mack truck. But, still, once that man gets a head of steam 7 yards, and, that's like a head-on violent collision every time you got to meet him with force, So they have to do a much better job. Luckily, they have a good rotation of guys still in the trenches with Sue, Hargrave, Fletcher Cox, Milton Williams, guys like that. But you've got to do a much better job of bringing people down. When they go to their four-man front, they are so susceptible to the run. And when you look at opponents in recent games, that's where opponents have had the biggest measure of success running the football is when the Eagles go into that four-man front instead of staying in a five-man front.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you think this is the game that was circled on the Eagles calendar when it came to Howie Roseman saying, all right, should I get Sue now? Should I get Joseph now? Should I get Joseph then Sue? Is this the game most notably that they had circled to be ready for in facing Derrick Henry, you think?
No, I think it was a series of games that led to this. And it just so happened that these guys were available. And I also think once the Eagles identified they've got to do something to stop the leaks on the run defense, they also looked at the schedule of what was ahead, because you were talking about, Jonathan Taylor, the combination of Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, and Dillon gave them problems, and Aaron Jones gave him problems running to the outside as well. Now you've got to face Derrick Henry. You've got Saquon twice. Justin Fields running all over the field nowadays like he's the second coming of Lamar Jackson. You still have that combination of Tony Pollard and Zeke to deal with in Dallas. So they knew there's a whole litany of good running backs, exceptional running backs. And when you talk about Derrick Henry and Saquon, oh, by the way, they're the number 1 and number 2 running backs in the National Football League this year. So they did what they had to do to shore up what could be potentially a major problem. You look at how Washington controlled the clock against them with the running game. And even though they still could have run that game, the fact that Washington was able to keep that offense off the field weighed significantly in their favor in helping determine the outcome of that game also.
Certainly, I'm sure a series of games the Eagles are going to be facing some formidable running opponents,
Sure.
as we well know. As far as the Eagles go, one thing you were yelling, one thing Seth Joyner was yelling, and I was in the back yelling as well.
I don't yell.
Feed the best.
I don't yell. I just speak loud.
You did. I wasn't yelling. Anyway,
I never yell.
No, I never yell. I just make sure you can hear me. Anyway, that would be a line from my dad. But anyway,
okay.
When it comes to this running attack, one thing we really wanted the Eagles to do going into this Packers game was run the football. And boy, did they. Now, we all know Jalen Hurts great and all that stuff, but It seems like Miles Sanders, they really pick and choose when to use Miles Sanders in this run game, to the point where they defer almost to the second half when they really start feeding them the rock.
Right.
So do you think we'll ever get to a point where you can almost pencil in Miles Sanders for 15 to 20 carries on the regular with this offense, or it'll be something where he is still few and far between going to be a featured player in this offense?
Well, I think it's determined by the opponent, more so than anything else. I've always said if you give Miles Sanders like 15 to 18 carries and maybe 3 or 4 passes, they don't even throw him the ball now. I think that's a good number for him. And as we saw, he had 17 carries for $143. I think that's a good number for a running back of his physique that has been susceptible to injuries in the recent past. I don't think you'll ever consider a running back in this Nick Sirianni offense as a featured back. You have too many featured players, from the quarterback to the wide receivers to the tight end to the collection of running backs. So I don't think Miles will be he's their feature running back, but in terms of feature running back as we know it, he's not going to carry the ball consistently 30, 35 times like a Derrick Henry, like a Jonathan Taylor, guys like that.
Is it all of it? Back to CD Deuce for a second here. Are we all aboard the Blankenship? See what I did there? Or is Howie Roseman going to go out there and is he going to sign another safety?
He went out and signed 2 D tackles in a span of 48 hours. I don't put anything past Howie.
Good point.
I really don't. But when you look at the way the kid Blankenship played on the back end, he had 3 or 4 great plays. For a young, untested safety to come up and read Aaron Rodgers the way he did and step in front of the tight end and make that interception, when most young guys who had probably been scared out of their minds are thinking, I just want to keep him in front of me and make the tackle so he doesn't get behind me. That tells you this kid is hungry and he has great anticipations. But he's also a young player, because when you look at the ball Christian Watson caught on the slant route over the middle, all the DBs had bad angles to the ball. Now, first of all, Christian Watson is 6'5", and has 4.3 speed. Your DBs are running 4.5, 4.6. That's a mismatch to begin with, and they all took bad angles. And that's just a learning tool. So I don't know what the comfort level is for the Eagles front office in terms of looking at what they need. I would be inclined to go with what I have, because CJ's coming back, Avante's coming back, and if Avante can step back and play the safety spot if he has to as well, and Josiah Scott can step down and play that slot corner position. Mm-hmm. So it depends on what they identify, or how they identify what's pressing and what's not pressing in terms of how comfortable or uncomfortable they feel with what's on the back end.
Copy that. I appreciate your time, as always, my friend. You're a busy man, and I know you just wrapped up an interview with a mutual friend of ours for the latest Gunn on One podcast, and, of course, Sports Take. What do you guys got coming up?
Hugh Douglas is the latest Gunn on One, and he is just as off the charts as he's ever been. So if you get a chance, because he talks about the incident with Michael Smith on ESPN, he goes into details about that and what he should or should not have done to Michael Smith. He talks about being inducted into the Eagles Hall of Fame, and he talks about being a father at the age of 51. He has a 4-year-old son at the age of 51, and I don't even want to tell you what he said, because I'm still a little uncomfortable with that. But
them Douglas boys.
Yeah, but Hugh Douglas, we run the gamut. We talk football, we talk family, we talk life on the latest edition of Gunn on One. And coming up on Sports Take, as you know, Sports Take, Barrett Brooks, Rob Ellis and I. You have 3 grown men who refuse to grow up, Monday through Friday, noon to 3, on the Jacob Sports Media YouTube machine. I always tell people one day I'm going to grow up, but that's not going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah, well, whatever you do, I know Barrett will only be about 50 years behind that.
Yes,
We know that much. Derrick Gunn, Gunn on One podcast, Jacob Media, Sports Take, the whole shebang. Gunner, always a pleasure, my friend, and I won't forget my hand espresso machine this Sunday at Ocean Casino.
Don't do it. I might lose it. I might lose it, man. I might lose it on the set, dude.
The great Derrick Gunn. Thanks,
Appreciate
Gunner.
you, brother. Always.
Appreciate you,
Anytime for you.
Thank you, my friend. Gunner joining us on the Rough and Orthopedics guest line. The great Derrick Gunn. Great to catch up with him as per usual. The great Derrick Gunn, no question. Should I show you the espresso thing? Do you want to see it? We'll leave it up to the chat. If you want to see the travel espresso maker, just say, espresso in the chat. If you rather see the twerking penguin, because it's almost December, you can see the twerking penguin. So it's totally up to you. Whatever you want to see, you just let me know in the chat. But right now, let me tell you about the amazing people of Manscaped. Manscaped.com, the leader. Oh, this show is, we've lost our G rating on this show. We're now like PG-13 today. And it ain't getting any better as far as our rating goes. Let me tell you about Manscaped. Fellas, you want to look good everywhere, right? Well, that's where Manscaped enters the conversation, especially with their best and biggest ultimate hygiene bundle yet, the Platinum Package 4.0. Because, like I said, you want to look good everywhere, right, boys? Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, that's what it includes. Also, the Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer. And it all comes with skin-safe technology that helps reduce the risk of nicks, so you can manscape with confidence and comfort. Plus, don't forget about this. I haven't mentioned it in a while. The Ultra Premium Body Wash, 2-in-1 shampoo, conditioner, deodorant, crop preserver, anti-chafing ball deodorant, crop reviver ball spray toner. What? Yes, anti-chafing boxers and the Shed travel bag that you'll use to hold the goods you'll be using to take care of your goods from Manscaped. Manscaped. Trust Manscaped with the whole shebang. And you can join 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped. Go to manscaped.com. Use promo code Farzy. That's manscaped.com and promo code Farzy and free shipping when you use promo code Farzy at manscaped.com. How about Freestone Farm CBD? FreestoneFarmCBD.com. If you like CBD, if you want to try CBD, if you want to try a different type of CBD, Freestone Farm CBD is just what hits well, as the kids like to say. It hits a little different. And it's better for everyone that's looking to take a more natural approach to everything that they put in their body. And I'm sure you tried a lot of other different types of CBD. Freestone Farms is above and beyond the best. Their menu is something you'll have to check out, like their insane tropical tasting Bayox that clocks in at a chart-topping 24.1%, and Super CBD, which is half Hindu, Kush, and 21%. Genetics of these guys are off the charts. It doesn't get any better. They grow all their premium hemp flower in the Garden State with all organic inputs and IPM, so there's nothing synthetic from farm to jar. Then after harvest, they carefully preserve all their plant compounds with a perfect 3-month cure. Just one look or smell, and it's enough to know it's CBD done right. Use promo code Farzy at FreestoneFarmCBD.com. That's promo code Farzy at FreestoneFarmCBD.com to check out all the CBD they have to offer at FreestoneFarmCBD.com. How about the Mojo app? Download the Mojo app to your phone right now. Over 300 skilled players across all social media right now. You can check it out. Over 300 skilled players in the NFL that you can look at with quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends. Each player has a share price attached to them on the Mojo app. Sorry, it's got an early glance at the check. Download the chat check. Download the Mojo app right now to your phone. Available in New Jersey on iOS. Check out Mojo. Make yourself some money. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Have a PHL Sports Station, Philadelphia Sports Station, enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience across all social media and blogs. That's PHLSportsStation.com. Let's get into the chat check. I'm going to start at the bottom. Because this is where the votes are in. Okay. Let's see here. T-Bro, April and T-Bro, just dying. Okay. Sean wants espresso. Okay. T-Bro, let's have the twerking let's have the, I thought somebody was going to say this. T-Bro says, let's have the penguin twerk to the espresso machine. Now, that would be X-rated. That would be accompanied by an adult. Okay, that would be, you can't, that's well beyond accompanied by an adult. I can't have that. Oh, no, definitely need to see this. Can't imagine TSA when I do travel with it, and I'll be taking a flight just after the holidays, this will be in the bag. So I want to set the scene here, folks. I want to set the scene. I could have sworn that my wife got this for me for a birthday, actually, not a holiday. I think I said holiday. I could have sworn that she traveled with it to give to me. And I want to say we were in London. She swears we were at our old apartment years ago when she gave it to me, but I don't remember. But anyway, it was my birthday, whatever. I was unwrapping the present, and I unwrap this. Okay? What the hell is this? If you open this, what would you think it was? Now, it was in a box with instructions on how to use it. Here's where you put the espresso. Okay? First, you put the water in this little thing here. Okay? That's that part of it. I'll just say that for the people on the podcast. It's 6:55 in the morning right now. So I would think we would start about 10 minutes late. 45 minutes into the YouTube program. Just check it out. Put the water in there, the boiling hot water. You take this, so you put your espresso in there. You put the espresso into the water. You take this thing, and you seal it. And then here's the real X-rated part. I'm not going to do it because it's just too much here, okay? You then pump. Okay? That's the end of that. I'm not going to go any further with it. Not going to go any further. I've already gone too far. Now I got espresso grounds on my desk. That looks like what I've said it looks like. What I said it looks like. Does it not? Am I crazy? So anyway, that thing sat alone, untouched for like 5 years. I never used it. And then finally, I just, a place we would regularly go did not have even a good cup of coffee. And I'm like, you know what? If I'm going to be on the road, I want to make sure I enjoy a nice little espresso in the morning. So I started bringing it along. And I'll say this, it makes a nice cup of espresso. I'll say that. Yep. Yeah. April, pump action. Okay. All right, back to sports, as I believe Sean said earlier in the chat. And Sean, I'm with you. I've taken it too far. Kevin, good morning. April, good morning. Yes, DGunn coming in hot. Yes, he was. Dan Schwartz. What's up, Dan? Malcolm Jenkins ready to step in. Dan, it crossed my mind. T-Bro, let's go. Happy Gunfather Day, everybody. Yes, absolutely. At least that's what Malcolm Jenkins said. John Clark before. Oh, CJGJ. Injury. That's interesting. Oh crap, I forgot the Flyers won. They did win 3-1 last night. Get to that in the morning rush. Sean Gillespie says, good morning, everybody. Poor Hart definitely looked like he took a cup shot. It's been an adult program today. Titans can't do anything but run. That's true, Sean, but here's my problem. Yes, they gained 87 yards, I want to say it was, in the Green Bay Packers when they played them the Thursday night before the Eagles played them. That is what happened. They ran the football. They still ran the football. They only averaged 3.1 yards per carry, but in that game, the Packers struggled, believe it or not, in the passing game. So, as you would assume, the Packers put all their eggs in one basket, and they ended up still getting beat by 10 points. They were on the struggle bus, and it wasn't just because of Derrick Henry. Ryan Tannehill in that game threw for 333 yards, and it was a 300-yard game, but 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. He was sacked 3 times. Derrick Henry was 2 of 2 passing in that game, including a touchdown pass. So they actually did light it up a wee bit. Traylon Burks also had 7 catches for 111 yards. So that was the wide receiver that went bonkers on him. Derrick Henry still had 2 catches for 45 yards. And yes, it was 87 yards on the ground. on 28 carries. So damn, son. But here's what I look at in this game. The first thing I look at is stopping Derrick Henry. That's the number one thing I look at on Derrick Henry, or on this game. The second thing I look at right after that is a healthy A.J. Brown looking to make a point. That's what I look at. Because anytime anyone faces their old team, they got that ginormous chip on their shoulder. Now, last week I thought it was going to come back and bite us just a little bit. Not that Rasul Douglas was going to have like some pick six game-winning play. Not like that. But just one player go, Douglas got it. Did not happen. And as a matter of fact, the Eagles took him for 2 touchdowns in this game, so that was great. But I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that A.J. Brown is a little bit better of a player than Rasul Douglas. Okay, now that we're all there. He going to have something today. He usually has something Sunday, for the Titans. He going to have something in that game. Derrick Henry, that's going to be the number one focus. Right after that, I think for the Titans, the number one focus is going to be, let's just make sure A.J. Brown doesn't kill us today. But what about Jalen Hurts? We'll get to him. What about Miles Sanders? We'll get to him. It's going to be a fun game for the Eagles. I think a very fun game for the Eagles. Now, that was last Thursday's game, of course, against the Packers. The Titans were able to do. They are coming off a loss. It is a loss to that Bengals team, and it was a 20-16 loss where, yes, they did hold Derrick Henry to one of his worst games of the season. Actually, his worst game of the season, holding him just 38 yards, 2.2 yards per carry. That's pretty weak. And now he's got Ndamukong Suh, Linval Joseph, Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargrave, maybe Jordan Davis to run through. So we'll see what they cook up for this team in particular. But yeah, Titans, they're not known for airing it out, but it's something that in case of emergency, break glass type of situation. Tannehill, 291 yards in that game, 22 of 34 passing in the loss to the Bengals. Hearts, cup shot, yep. Sean Gillespie, sports talk, please. Sean Gillespie, Farzy, bougie? According to Derrick Gunn, pretty bougie. Oh, wait, hold on. Mike Walker, what's up, Mike? Can't help feeling that the Flyers need their own version of the process. I'm not a hockey nut, but I believe I heard there will be team-changing players at the top of the draft, tear it all down. I'm all about it. Here's what I know. John Tortorella, and every time the guy says a curse word, every time the guy is brutally honest about his team, the guy makes headlines. A couple of nights ago, he came out and said, with the exception of a couple of minutes, he liked his team. And this is, I believe it was their 8th straight loss, and literally said after the game, I'm not going to criticize my guys tonight. I give John Tortorella a lot of credit. Like, yes, he calls it as he sees it. He says that his team sucks. Hey, why don't you have more success in the first period? Because we suck. Okay, thanks. As he did say to a national audience. Anytime John Tortorella is honest like that, he makes headlines. He literally said after a game he wasn't going to criticize his team because he liked his effort. He liked his team's effort. And he has said that on multiple occasions. He doesn't think it's an effort thing with this team. If it's not effort, then that means you just ain't good enough. I remember Randy Miller, baseball writer, for most time that I read him, asked Claude Giroux after a game where the Flyers had kind of continuously played well below the standard they had set. He just flat out said, well, maybe instead of effort, is just maybe the guys aren't good enough. And I'm like, wow, nobody asked that ever. And John Tortorella kind of got ahead of that same subject a couple days ago when he talked about the idea of, it's not a matter of effort. This team hustles. This team tries. This team goes out there and gives it their all. Their all just isn't good enough. That's a direct shot across the bow there of the front office and the organization as a whole. And I give John Tortorella a lot of credit for that. Because, John Tortorella is at the point of his career, and he's been here for a while. It's like, well, what are you going to tell me? You're running the team here? Okay, great. Let's go ahead and get more assets. I'm coaching the guys to the best of my ability, to the best of this team's ability. What this team can do, this is as good as it gets. The only way we get better is we get more talent. I'm all for breaking it down to build it back up. I'm all for it. I know it hasn't worked out quite as well as we had hoped it would with the Sixers. Get out of the second round, please. But I still think right now you need a total reset. Like, what are you going to do? If Kevin Hayes wait around for 5 more years before you build this team into what are you going to have? Carter Hart, more importantly, sit around and wait 5 more years to really build this team up? That ain't happening. Carter Hart would be around because he's young enough. Kevin Hayes, not so much. But it's a very frustrating thing right now to watch the Flyers. Jim is in agreement with that. Absolutely. Do not bring the portable espresso maker. Sean Gillespie, do not bring that portable espresso maker with you. You are relatively famous. Might be an Uber legend, like former Philly newscaster. I think I know what you're referencing. Mike, I believe the Birds have their best game this week. Shut down Henry. Tannehill is an average quarterback. AJ going to go off. Mike, I agree. I agree on all points. I agree on all points right there. I think this will be the Eagles' best game of the year. The Eagles consistently say, we make this point almost every week, the pursuit of perfection, not being about the record, the pursuit of perfection, playing the perfect game. I don't think any team ever plays a perfect game. Very rarely. Okay, I'll downgrade that to very rarely. You do have the occasional 50-3 blowout, whatever it might be. Very rarely do you have the perfect game. But when it comes to this Eagles team, they'll find something to nitpick at, even after a win, to focus on and say, we should have played better here. We should have upped our standard a little bit more. And we'll see if they actually do that. This could be that game where they do it because they are built to win this game perfectly. And that's how I'm looking at it right now. That's the chat check. Let's get to the morning rush brought to you by Sky Motorcars, SkyMotorcars.com. Let's talk about those Flyers for a second. They did snap their 10-game losing streak last night with a 3-1 victory over the Islanders. If you like old-time hockey, in the first 8 seconds of this game yesterday, there were 2 fights. There you go. Right out of the game. They're playing a back-to-back with the Islanders. People rubbing people the wrong way. Let's get in a fight. And they got to fight about it the first 8 seconds of that game. 2 of them, as a matter of fact. Flyers came away with the win. They went down 1-0 early in the game. Were able to storm back in. Sanheim got the shorthanded goal, made it 1-1. And then Kevin Hayes was able to score right off the faceoff. Love those goals. Those are beautiful. Right off the faceoff, got the goal, goes up 2-1. And then Kevin Hayes also added the empty netter at the end of the game for the 3-1 Flyers victory. They're next back at it tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, as they host the Tampa Bay Lightning. Sixers are on the hardwood tonight in Cleveland against the Cavaliers. 7 o'clock tip-off for that game. Team USA, men's soccer. They're going to be back at it against the Netherlands on Saturday. Christian Pulisic, who scored the goal yesterday, by the way. He said he will be back despite leaving the game early with an injury, as anybody who watched the game knows. And he said he'll be back ready to go against the Netherlands come Sunday. Can't wait for that. Saturday. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. That's the Farzy Show presented by Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate you guys a lot, as per usual. I did not see that, Mike. I still have yet to watch that, but yeah, I gotta check that out. Jim Hyder produced the program, did a wonderful job. This is a Buzz Sports Entertainment production. Tomorrow, this is what I was getting to. Tomorrow's show. We have a 1 o'clock interview scheduled today with Mr. Mike Golick. So he'll be on tomorrow's program. We'll talk about the Eagles' offensive line, including some great things that Mr. Golick has going on for himself as well. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. This is the Farzy Show, presented by Steven Singer Jewelers. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. See ya.